This episode of Beer and Bullshit is brought to you by Woodhouse Brewing Company in Toronto. Woodhouse brews the refreshing beers using only choice ingredients and no preservatives. Check out their brew pub in Toronto today and enjoy their newly opened patio. Welcome to another episode of Beer and Bullshit. In case you didn't notice, that is a new intro. Chris, what did you think of that?
I like it. It's given us a little bit of heat to start the program off.
I'll tell you, apparently our previous intro gave people too much heat. We've had more than one complaint that apparently my levels aren't great. I don't know if it's just the system people are listening to, but lots of people have said that it's like when I go to the ads, the volume is unbearable. Someone actually took the time to find my website, fill in the contact Ben form, and was like, "I've listened to 3 of your shows, and I won't be listening to a fourth if the volume isn't fixed." So apologies to that person. I'm not retroactively fixing the 3 episodes they still have to listen to, but we do have new intro music. That is courtesy of the band Drug Rug, London's own. One of their members is the co-owner and brewer at Beer Lab. Spoiler alert about an upcoming episode, who might be on it. But he said something similar about our music, but offered a choice of any music from any of his 4 bands that he's in. So thanks, Nick. We've added your tunes to Beer and Bullshit forever and ever, or until somebody emails me to complain.
Well, that's a nicer approach than saying I will never listen again because the music was a touch too loud.
He gave me a chance at least to redeem myself. So yeah, we'll see if there's any listener feedback, and I think maybe we'll end this show by playing that song in its entirety. It's a good tune. Chris, you are looking very cottagey. For the listeners at home, Chris is wearing a tank top. I can see him sitting on his cottage deck, showing a lot of skin, a lot of tan skin, and it's an Atari tank top. Lovely.
That's right. I got this when I was playing Atari when I was about 4 years old, and I just grew into it this summer.
Somebody was thinking way ahead when they bought you that. What are you drinking?
I am drinking a Canuck Pale Ale, courtesy of our wonderful friends at Great Lakes Brewery.
As am I. A go-to beer. If it wasn't provided to us to drink on the show, there's a good chance we'd be drinking it tonight anyway.
I liked that burst. That was my first time having it. And my wife loved the can art as well. So that's the win-win.
Win-win. Can art win and a good beer win. How's your week? You're headed to the country there.
It's been a grind from work, and I'm tempted to do something that's not work at all hours of every day. But it's been nice. The weather's been beautiful. A little beach time.
Nice. Gotta love the shores of Lake Huron. Been in a bit of a debate recently about what is the greatest lake, and I will always contend that the greatest lake is Lake Huron. Although someone did have a pretty good argument in the sense that one of the lakes is literally superior. It's like I had to give him some props for that wordplay.
That's its positioning on a map. There is nothing superior about
It's
Lake
the deepest.
Superior.
It's really deep.
It is the largest by volume of water. I will give it that.
Hmm.
It's also the coldest by a long margin.
I think we can all agree that Erie is just shit. Lake Erie is garbage.
It's trash. It's
Yep.
It's the landfill of the Great Lakes.
It's honestly the one lake when you go to, there's a 50-50 chance you'll be able to swim or not. At least if you go to Port Stanley, because there's often bacteria in the water.
I don't know if you knew this about the Great Lakes this summer, but because of COVID, there's been such attention from all the health units on fighting COVID. There hasn't been any time to test the waters for E. coli. So the lakes may have gotten a touch dirtier.
Now, what is this COVID you mentioned? Good times. Pandemic humor.
It should be done by now, but the pandemic isn't. So here we are with crappy dad jokes for pandemic.
What are you going to do? Not a crazy big beer week in terms of news. I don't know if you're aware because you've been at the cottage, and you're not really on the Twitter as much as I am. Although I would say not a lot of people are. But there was a guy in Toronto. Did you hear about this guy? He walked out of a Toronto liquor store with 24 free bottles of wine due to a glitch on their system.
Yeah, I saw this. I don't know what that glitch is, but I would love to know and understand it better.
So apparently, he is a member of a Facebook group that often shares sales and new arrivals. Apparently, that's a thing. And someone noticed that a box of 6 bottles of red wine was listed at $0. So he tried it out and he put, four of the SKUs into his shopping cart, bought one other item, and then the LCBO eventually alerted him that his order was ready. Lo and behold, when he got there, it was 24 bottles of wine and whatever the other thing he bought was, and the charge was only for the other thing. So he walked out with 24 bottles of wine. And then apparently he realized that it was not the right bottle of wine. So he went back in and complained. Tempting fate. But he's like, this isn't the wine I ordered. And they switched his bottles. They gave him a fresh 24 of wine and sent him on his way. So I think, like, up till now, I'm on board with this story. But then he went on Twitter and he did like a 15 tweet story about it. And it was like, let me tell you about my harrowing adventure with the LCBO. Like, it was ridiculous. And then he got an interview with CTV and CP24, like holding his bottles of wine and like telling his story. It was just so obnoxious because if you're going to at least get away with a little scam, you know, power to you, I guess. But I don't think you need to go on Twitter and then go on multiple news outlets to brag about ripping off the LCBO.
Yeah, if you're going to be sneaky, try to be sneaky a little bit.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the humble brag? You're going to go on anyone that will possibly give you any sort of time on it. But 15 minutes of fame, everybody's going to get theirs. And this guy's is when he's got his wine, I guess.
I'd rather have free wine than 15 minutes. I don't know. Here's what I think. The LCBO is publicly owned. That is wine that if someone had bought it, the dollars, or at least some of them, would have ended up in public coffers. So he's really ripping us off. Like, he's ripped off Ontario, not the LCBO. I think we all get a piece of that wine.
And the government would have spent that, $4 or $5 pretty well, knowing the government. I'm sure they would have.
Hey man, that's roads and schools. Where do you think all this intense preparing for kids going back to school, you think that paid for itself? You think they just made that plan up out of the blue and sent kids back to school? No, that cost money.
You're right. That is a $5 plan.
You're right. It would have been a $10 plan if it wasn't for this asshole.
What about you, Benny? You've ever had a mix-up like that in a store where you've gotten something for free or some sort of deep discount because, oh, you know what? The label does say that.
Yes, there's been 2 instances that stand out. Actually, there was a streak when we were moving constantly in Toronto. It felt like for a while we moved every year, but we ripped off IKEA by accident, like every time we went. The first time was significant. We bought like a kitchen table, and I was like, fuck, this thing is heavy. And we got home, and it was 2 kitchen tables stuck together. And I was like, oh, God, we paid for 1 and got 2. So I just like put some stain on it and it became my backyard table. And then another time we were getting my son's room ready when he was a baby, and we bought tons of shit and got home and realized that we hadn't somehow missed ringing in the dresser. So like the biggest ticket item on the list. It feels good. It feels kind of good. I'm not gonna lie. I don't condone stealing, but when you do it by accident and you realize, you're like, fuck yeah. There's something.
You didn't go back and tell them and show that high moral fiber?
No, I didn't drive to Burlington. I think IKEA can float me a table. They're okay. You know what I didn't do is I didn't go on Twitter and post 15 tweets for my harrowing tale.
I had one time I was going through a drive-through ATM, and the person in front of me took off. I was doing something in my car, and then I look up, and they've left all their money there. It's about $300 in cash. And I looked, and it was awkward to get out. They're gone. Let them go. And I was living with my folks at the time and went home and told my mom that story. And she said, actually, the same thing happened to me earlier today. It was $40, and I chased the person down in my car for about 20 minutes and gave them their money back. I'm like, well, don't I feel like a piece of shit?
So you pocketed $300?
Yeah, it was an accident, Ben, and none of it was going to the government, so it's okay.
I feel like you didn't try that hard. Oh, oh, he's gone. Oh, and then he's just like waiting to turn. Yeah, he's turning. There was a more recent example. Actually, we were at the cottage, and I like to buy trashy clothing from either the local Giant Tiger or the Walmart when I'm in Port Elgin or Southampton, Ontario, as was the case on a recent trip. And my son and I were like, it was like, when you just need to get the fuck out of a store because you're done and your kid is done and you're just like, just shut the fuck, just get out of it. So we were doing that at the self checkout, and I was just like, beep, beep, dude, just calm down, boop, boop. And I got in the car, and I bought like 7 trashy Hawaiian shirts from a Walmart, and I had only actually rung in one one of them, and I felt okay about that. I feel like maybe I'm going to get arrested for this podcast, but I feel like it's Walmart's got that built into their business plan, I'm sure.
If that makes you feel better about it, you ripped them off for 7 $1 shirts, and you're
Basically.
laughing about it.
Yeah, I still have some of them. This might be one of them actually. Folks, are you like me? Do you like supporting independent breweries? Yeah, you do. What better independent brewery to support right now than the Indie Ale House? Indie is right in the name, so you know they're independent. They're located in Toronto. Their brew pub is in the Junction, and they have a brewery in Italy in the Manulife Center as well. Of course, these are weird times for going out. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe you don't even live in Toronto. That's okay. You can still try the delicious beers that they're making at the Indie Ale House because they made it easy. Beer to your door, ordered from the comfort and safety of your own home. That's my favorite way to order things. You got free delivery anywhere in Toronto if you order 12 beers or more, and a flat rate anywhere else in Ontario. Why not order a stay home pale ale? $1 from every can of stay home purchased will be donated to the fund that supports their employees that have been temporarily laid off due to COVID 19. Check them out at indiealehouse.com. Also in the news, Collective Arts is once again looking for art for their cans. You're obviously, I mean, you're not a Hamilton guy, but you lived in Hamilton for a long time, so you drank a lot of Collective Arts. Still do, I assume.
I did, and I do.
Yeah. Well, so they have art on their can. Obviously, every quarter they release a call for art, inviting artists from around the world to submit work based around a specific theme. And each quarter, a rotating board of curators chooses 40 to 60 artists the brewery ultimately features on their cans. Fun fact, I was a curator once.
Ooh.
Yeah. You basically are sent a link and you look at a bunch of art, like lots and lots of it, and you just click like yes, no, yes, no. That's fine.
So I
But
see they're paying artists $250 for each submission that they could run with. Have they always done that with their artwork?
Yeah, but it's always been, for some reason, well, not for some reason, it's a bit contentious because if you look at Collective Arts brand, their site, their cans, they use this art a lot, right? Like if you think Collective Arts, you think of the cool art that's on their cans, labels, website. So some people are of the mind they're like, hey, $250, righteous bucks. Some people think maybe it's not quite enough for the usage that the brewery's getting out of the art.
Yeah, I mean it's disposable art though, right? I mean, people look at it, they think it's beautiful, and it's and they'll move on. So, I mean, I don't think that would take away from somebody seeing that piece later at a gallery or anywhere else.
Yeah. This year, though, this quarter, the call is for protest art, artwork that deals with topics of equity, inequity, art from BIPOC artists, art from the LGBTQ plus artists, and artwork that conveys a sense of hope for a safer and more inclusive future. So the idea is that this year, or this quarter, specifically geared toward art dealing with social issues, which is pretty cool.
I mean, I'll look to buy some more collective arts and see what that looks like. So, when are these launching, Ben? When will we see the new art?
I don't know, but if anyone listening who wants to submit art, I do know the deadline is August 31st. I actually read about this in Forbes, which is kind of cool to see Ontario beer scene covered in Forbes. And it
It,
seems like they've made an effort to pull from a diverse crew of curators this time around, too.
well, I think that's important rather than the same curators every time. Otherwise, you just lean to the same style of art every time.
I mean, I did a great job. They haven't called me back.
Well, that's good. I mean, sometimes you need a fresh set of eyes, somebody with, an art background beyond yours.
I took grade 12 and OAC art. Thank you.
And you did a great job in those classes. I'm proud of you.
I don't know if that's true. It was a great class to have after lunchtime if you had gone down to the river with your friend Chris during lunchtime.
You had another friend named Chris, or
Just saying. It was lovely. I miss art. Like I remember, okay, this is so off topic, but I was thinking recently about how backwards it is that you go to school at the age you go to school. Like how much would you love it if your day right now was just go somewhere and learn and read? Like that would be amazing. And for every year that I actually had to do that, I did not appreciate it. Like imagine if you could go to university at 39, I would kill for that.
yeah, you would go to university and think this is amazing instead of, oh, school's so tough. I'm so stressed out. I'm like, yeah, wait, just give it a few years, you
Yeah.
dumbass.
Imagine you're just like, here's a bunch of great books, and then tomorrow I'm going to explain them to you and we're going to have a conversation about them. You're like, fuck, this is the worst. Like, wait till you get to the real world.
So are you suggesting then if you do the school part later in life that, there should be child labor and everyone should go to work when they're 4 through 18 and then take a break? Or
I think that
how's
could
this?
work. Because a big part of my plan also involves having children at 16 when you have the energy to do it. So everything's happening in reverse. You should put in a good 20 years of hard work from ages 4 to 24, pop out a couple kids, and then when they're at work, you go to university.
I like that.
It's not that crazy.
And then you go back to work hard when you're age 65 through 85
Why?
because you're not going to be enjoying your life as much then anyway. You should be retired when you're like 30 through 50
Right.
and then grind right to the grave.
Yeah, just wear, yeah, it's good. I like that. Just wear yourself down to a nub and make sure there's money for your kids for when they're doing their university phases at 30.
That's right. I think we've figured something out
This
here a little
isn't
bit.
bad. Honestly, who do we talk to about this?
Great Lakes Brewery.
I'll call Troy Birch in the morning.
So deadline, August 31st. Another important non-beer related deadline of August 31st is a submission of your audition tapes for Canada Family Feud.
Is that a thing? Who's the
It,
host
it
of Canada Family Feud?
it's Jerry D.
Oh, okay. Who else would it be? I guess it's him or Sean Cullen or whatever that guy's name was.
Ben Mulrooney, maybe.
Oh no, he's canceled. You didn't get the memo? The Mulrooney's are fucking canceled.
Are you canceled if you're a spouse of a canceled person?
Oh yeah, there's canceled by osmosis for sure.
Okay, then
Are you?
definitely not Ben Mulrooney.
I could totally see your family applying. Are you doing it?
We're trying to put together our video. The the tough part is so it's Lena and I, and then it's Rob and Lindsay, and then it's my folks,
Hmm.
and you're only allowed 5 people. So when they first had Family Feud Canada, it was okay. Who's going to be on the team? And I think I said something. Well, obviously, Lena and I and Rob and Mo, and then who would be the fifth? And Lindsay was the one that brought it up. She's like, "Fuck you." But
I think it's last in, first out. That's only fair.
yeah, I don't know.
Or do you go with who's going to do better in the competition?
I would maybe trade one of the people for Jacob, but I won't say who. Jacob's my 11-year-old son for our listeners who aren't initiated.
Yeah, that would be actually pretty fun. You should do it. Are you legit doing this?
Yeah, we've got our ideas for our video. We've just been talking about it for 2 weeks without actually recording the 3-minute video, but we'll do it. We're going to do it. That's why I said, how are we going to, we are so used to playing board games and quick word association games, but only with alcohol in our system. Like, are we allowed to be a bit drunk on Family Feud? I don't know.
I feel like it would be encouraged.
It's a family show.
Drinking and family go hand in hand.
Of course. I mean, I said that as a point in favor of it.
Are you a bar owner or a restaurant owner wishing it was easier to order beer Well, guess what? Now you can with Order Simply. Order Simply is a web based platform which makes it easier for bars, restaurants, and other licensees to purchase the great Ontario craft beers that I sometimes talk about on this very show. From finding new products, making the checkout and payment seamless, and tracking and invoicing orders, Order Simply makes the process simple. That makes sense. It's called Order Simply. I get it now. The name, I just got it. I just got it. On top of making ordering more simple for buyers and sellers, Order Simply has partnerships with local charities providing a portion of all their profits to fight food insecurity in their customers' communities, which you gotta love, unless you're a piece of garbage. Order Simply is launching their platform this summer. Check them out at ordersimply.ca, find them on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And we could talk about our recommendations.
I like it. What are you into these days, Benny?
So, as you know, I'm an English major and I'm a bit snooty, and I like to think of myself as an intellectual reader. But the truth of the matter is, I buy a lot of books, I buy a lot of classics, and I buy a lot of like intellectual books, and it is like a slog these days. Like I can't get through them. And so every once in a while, I fall on a piece of like good fiction that's not necessarily super intellectually stimulating, and I just like devour it. So I found a book in my house. I have no idea where this book came from because it's pretty new. It's 2017, but it's called The Force, and it's by an author named Don Winslow. And I knew nothing about this book except for the cover and the quotes on it. But the quotes involve one from Stephen King, who calls it The Godfather, only with cops. It's that good. So I'm like, all right, Stephen King's recommending something that's going to be readable. And then someone else, Lee Child, who's like, he writes a lot of like fiction, cop and detective fiction. He said The Force is probably the best cop novel ever written. So I'm like, all right, I needed fiction, and I'm just like crushing this book. It's pretty formulaic, and it's like gritty New York cop, a little bit of, there's trouble with racism, there's Irish drinking cops, there's the internet, IAB and stuff, but it's pretty solid. So if you're looking for like a big, not too challenging read, this one is doing it for me right now.
I might have to check that out. We've got a family challenge going right now for the summer. Everyone has to read 10 books. And it's been a slog for those of us that are working over the summer, which is just me. But
Wow, take that, wife.
you know what? Sometimes I lose Lena for a whole day just reading. I'm like,
She's reading all day?
she just reads all day long. She gets
Wow.
into a book. Or she'll stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning reading when she's into it.
What are your kids doing? Just eating sugar and staring at screens? I'm calling the authorities.
They're playing Minecraft or reading.
Reading's good.
Yeah. So I've been reading some longer books, and I decided to shift into a couple of shorter ones. And I got a couple of recommendations. The first is The Marrow Thieves, book by Cherie Dimaline. I believe I'm saying that incorrectly. It's set in a post-apocalyptic Ontario, and it's
Okay.
following a band of Indigenous people that are on the run from white people that are trying to harvest their marrow because people have stopped being able to dream, and it's causing them to go insane. Except for Indigenous people, they still know how to dream, and they believe the secret is in their marrow. And it's a compelling book from not so much the story and the post-apocalyptic, but side of it, but just everybody's story that's within this nomadic group that's traveling together and how they came to be in that position. And I thought it was a good book for the times we're in right now, where everybody could use a little perspective from something outside of their own upbringing or circle, whatever that circle might look like, whether ethnic or ideologic, whatever. So that was a good one.
You reminded me of did I ever talk to you about the book Station 11? It's Emily St. John Mandel. I just looked that up because I couldn't remember. But it's a post-apocalyptic book that takes place around actually the shores of the Great Lakes. So it cuts back and forth to like it actually would be insane to read now because I read it right before the pandemic. But it's like a virus hits and everyone dies, and it's like where were you when it happened? Airplanes start getting shut down. Like a couple of the main characters hole up in their Toronto condos, like super high up, and they're just trying to wait it out. But it does seem like eventually there's like maybe I don't know 1 or 2% of the population is immune. So then it cuts back to like 20 years later, and there's this tribe of people that are traveling as musicians and actors, and they just go from town to town. So like all the little towns along like Huron, like when you stop in like Clinton and stuff, and you just see like crossroads, those have become villages. But these people will travel and do like Shakespeare and music for the people along the way. It was a really good book, but also like terrifying. Like I read it as like a germaphobe before the pandemic, and I was like, this shit could happen. And then this happened, and I was like, fuck. Like it was almost like exactly like the book. But yeah, you reminded me when you said post-apocalyptic and based in Ontario, because this one was too. It's always nice to read about Toronto and Ontario in a book, especially a book of fiction. Sorry, you weren't done. I interrupted you.
No, not at all. We were talking about the Great Lakes earlier, so we've really brought things
I know this
full
is a Great
circle.
Lakes themed show. Great Lakes Brewery, you're on the Great Lakes, and now our books are touching on the Great Lakes.
The other recommendation, so when I finished the Marrow Thieves, is just looking for something easy, not too long. Jump back into Richard Bachman, aka Stephen King's
Oh yeah, classic.
The Running Man, which is just it's an awesome read now. I haven't read it in probably 20 years, and it's just so different obviously from the movie with Schwarzenegger, but it's just kind of a gritty, cool story. Like the hero's kind of like an anti-hero, and he's just kind of a nasty asshole who's really clever, and it's some of the dialogue's pretty good.
Those books were awesome. I remember you and I we talked about those. Like I still think about The Long Walk all the time. Like that concept of me, like everyone's poor and you just have to walk, and one guy or girl gets the prize, but you have to like shit, piss, sleep, and eat walking, and you get 3 warnings. The third warning, you're dead. Like I think about that story all the time. I don't know why. It's always stuck with me.
And that one dude who took 2 warnings to run out and have sex with the girl, that was pretty good.
I think he just kissed her. I don't think he actually had sex.
He did. He definitely did.
2 warnings, it's like 10 seconds. I don't think I'm going to check that out, but I don't think it was sex. I think he was kissing like a beautiful woman.
I was actually talking to someone last night about that story, and that it was optioned as a movie, but then they decided, well, how do we make it? It's just the different characters' inner monologue. Is it just like a different character self-reflecting and narrating each part of the movie? I said, well, make it a TV show. You do the backstory for each.
Yeah, that would be solid, actually. Or it would be the really, really boring Hunger Games. Like, all right, start walking for 3 hours.
That's right. What's the action scene? This is it. Kids, pay attention. This part's cool.
Isn't one of the stories in that became Stand By Me? Isn't that the body? Isn't that in that series, the Bachman books? I think it's the body, which is a.
I don't know. I don't know that was a Bachman book. I think that was it.
If only we had all of the world's information. I'm like, I do.
I thought that was in Pet Sematary or maybe Nightmares and Dreamscapes. My hands are off the keyboard. That's my thought.
No. Oh yeah, Roadwork was the 4th one. I couldn't remember.
Apt Pupil was the first?
No, that was a Stephen King. Rage was the one. It's like a guy takes his classroom hostage. The Long Walk. Roadwork is where a guy murders the gangster that killed his wife by burying him alive in his Cadillac.
Oh yeah.
And then The Running Man. All right, Christy. Well, we can keep it short this week. You can get back to the cottage, and I can go drink another Canuck.
That sounds like a great plan.
And we're going to end it there tonight, and we're going to play folks out with a song called D&M by the band Drug Rug, London's own Drug Rug. See you next time. Bye, Chris.
See you, Benny.
Thanks for listening. Be sure and wash your hands.